So this morning I want to talk about CNN and the local news channel KUSI in San Diego and how news sometimes builds narrative over stories. So on Friday morning, I've been in the South. On Friday morning, Jim Acosta tweeted a video of him down at the border wall talking about how there's some holes down in the border wall and the problems with it. And Donald Trump, Jim Acosta is a reporter for CNN. He's the one that famously got kicked out of the White House press briefings briefly. Anyway, Donald Trump saw this tweet and retweeted it with the caption, "Dear Diary." Just as an ongoing love-hate relationship between those two. But with the backdrop to that, CNN had reached out to a local news channel called KUSI in San Diego to talk about the border wall. They wanted to get a local reporter who'd been covering that beat to talk with CNN or to give a report to CNN about the border wall and what it's like living by the border wall down in San Diego. However, when they found out the nature of the reporters reporting for KUSI, the local news reporter, CNN decided to drop them. They decided not to go with the reporter anymore, and they didn't want to go with the local reporter, and their reasons for having a local reporter suddenly went out the window. Or at least, that's what it seemed. It's all a bit confusing. CNN had said they wanted to, have a local reporter perspective down by the border wall, and then suddenly they decided not to go with one. They decided to go with Jim Acosta. Now, a lot of times these kind of things fly under the radar. I don't think the average news watcher or average person sees what happens behind the scenes in media, but on Twitter it all goes down. So KUSI was bold enough to this morning actually exclaim to their audience that CNN had reached out to them, had wanted to use one of their reporters to talk about the border wall down in San Diego, and then when they offered up the reporter, CNN declined to use their reporter because they didn't like the nature of their reporting. And after KUSI San Diego said this, some tweets went back and forth, and some other media companies started to pick up on this and thought, like, well, why? What's going on with CNN? Twitter's kind of where it all goes down in the media world. And after a few media companies picked up on this, CNN finally responded about 4 or 6 hours later. And they said, I'll read you their CNN PR relations department, CNN Communications, tweeted out a tweet following this incident with that local news channel down in San Diego about not using the reporter. And they said, "We called several local stations to book someone for a show. We didn't end up booking any of them. That happens many times every single day. We did, however, book a reporter from KUSI for a story on immigration and the border wall in November. This is a non-story. #facts first." Now, one, I think it's quite classic New York City media industry elitist East Coast to say this is a non-story, that a news agency is the arbiter of what is the story or what is not a story, and that if it's about them, well, this is obviously not a story. But if we're pursuing something, it is a story. And I think it's those kinds of things that rub people in Middle America kind of the wrong way. Just the fact that they would even include in their smugness, this is a non-story. Now, on top of that, after CNN released their little PR tweet, Oliver Darcy, a senior media reporter for CNN, also tweeted out CNN's PR defense, and he also tweeted out some screenshots of the local KUSI reporter's Twitter account. Twitter is where everything happens in media. So he took some screenshots, this senior media reporter for CNN. He took some screenshots of this local San Diego reporter's Twitter account. And I'm going to read you some of the screenshots that he took. Mike MacKinnon, by the way, is the KUSI San Diego local reporter's name. So on Mike MacKinnon's Twitter, here are the screenshots that this CNN reporter took. Took a screenshot of Mike MacKinnon retweeting a tweet that says, "Crazy year at California DMV. Look back tonight on KUSI. Pretty harmless." Mike MacKinnon also retweeted a tweet that says, "CNN, we are real news." Also CNN, and then a picture of CNN broadcasting a woman with the chyron saying, "Trump's constant use of, quote, witch hunt offends witches," which actually I think is kind of funny, and it's kind of indicative and shows the need for 24-hour news networks to constantly fill content. As they obviously had gotten booked some, alleged witch to go on their program and talk about how Donald Trump using the word witch hunt was an offense to witches. And then the local San Diego reporter, Mike MacKinnon, also retweeted Donald Trump in December saying, this is Donald Trump tweet, "There is right now a full-scale manhunt going on in California for an illegal immigrant accused of shooting and killing a police officer during a traffic stop. Time to get tough on border security and build the wall." And there's also another tweet by Mike MacKinnon, also retweeted Sarah Sanders, who is Donald Trump's White House press secretary. Now, however you may feel about Donald Trump, or the media, or the border wall, I don't think these are that important. I think what's important to keep in mind is the logistics going on behind here. And the fact that the senior media reporter for CNN, Oliver Dorsey, took screenshots of this guy's Twitter account as if to prove that this KUSI San Diego reporter was pro the wall and pro Donald Trump policies, and therefore was maybe biased by a source, and we didn't want to go with a local reporter. Well, I feel like it also makes the opposite argument that if you wanted a local report and get a local flavor of what people thought down by the border wall, and then you realize they didn't think the way you thought, and you dropped them, it would kind of show that you had a narrative, wouldn't it? Or at least I think it would be reasonable for people to think, well, maybe CNN might indeed have a narrative if you only want to hear one side of the story, and this local reporter is talking about how, the border wall isn't an issue. And then CNN decides not to go with him suddenly, and instead you wind up with Jim Acosta talking about how bad the border wall is and tweeting about it. Kind of shows like CNN does have an agenda. Now, in CNN's defense, they say like we book many people, and oftentimes they do get dropped. This is nothing unusual. And working in media, I have to say there is some truth to that. Often, you conduct multiple interviews, multiple shoots, and things get cut due to time constraints, or the quotes are redundant due to multiple interviews, and so people do get cut. That is common, but it's a little interesting to use that as the reason why you cut the local reporter, and then have other people at CNN tweet out screenshots of the guy's Twitter account in an apparent attempt at showing this guy's character or political beliefs. It makes me think, or one think at least, that maybe CNN does have a little bit of a narrative. So anyway, that's just a thought for you guys. I think, a lot of these are small incidents, and there's not one specific person to blame, of course, but I think it's important to highlight these kinds of things because, often they fly under the radar, and the average person isn't going to notice when CNN, reaches out to a local news station. And then when that local news station says, well, most of our reporting has been on problems with the border wall. It's been on, how we deal with migrants and how they're being treated. And then suddenly CNN doesn't want to go with any local reporters by the border. Anyway, doesn't really matter how you feel about Trump or how you feel about, your liberal or conservative or Democrat. I think it's just interesting to learn a little bit behind the scenes of the logistics about how media companies are. Anyway, just a thought, you guys, for the morning. Hope you have a good morning. If that is Sweatshirt here, I'd plug it. Maybe I'll put a link in the description. But yeah,